Alright, so today we're going to talk a little bit about good touch and bad touch. So first we're going to talk about the circle of relationships. So here we can see we have the purple circle, which is the me circle, so it's the private circle. We have the blue, which equals the family circle. We have green, which equals friendship. We have yellow, which equals acquaintance. So someone you may see a lot, but you don't really know them. Orange is community helpers, and red equals strangers. Alright, so the purple circle equals me. So you are the most important person in the world. You decide who is allowed to touch you, and no one is allowed to touch you unless you want to be touched. So the blue circle is the family circle. So you can see a nice little family here on the right. So your family can consist of your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, and relatives, like close relatives. So maybe an aunt or an uncle or a cousin. You may hug, kiss, say I love you to the people in this group. If you do not feel like being loving in the moment, you can simply just say stop or no. Your family members may say stop or no to you too, and that's okay. So the next circle is the green circle, which is friendship. So we can see a nice group of friends there on the right. So friends you feel close to make up this group. So you can give them a friendly hug, shoulder to shoulder, pats on the back, high fives, or use words to tell them how much you like them. Sometimes friends can get too close and you don't want them to. In that case, you just say stop or no. The next circle is the yellow circle, and it's the acquaintances. So these are people you may see a lot but are not your friends. You may or may not know their names. You may say hello or shake their hand. If someone in this group asks for a hug or wants to touch you, you can just say no. Remember that no one can touch you unless you want them to touch you. The next circle is the orange circle, which is community helpers. So we can see a nice support worker working with a nice little boy there on the right. So these are people that assist you in the community. Helpers who bring you to the mall, grocery shopping, take you to the doctors, something along those lines. You may give them a handshake, a high five, or a wave. These people may need to touch you and should ask for your permission before they do. If you feel uncomfortable, you can say stop or no. Remember that no one can touch you unless you want them to touch you. So the next circle is the red circle. It's our final circle, and these are the strangers. We can see a man here on the right that doesn't look familiar to me, and it shouldn't look familiar to you either. You do not know these people. You may have seen them before, but they are still strangers to you. You don't talk to them unless you have to say thank you or excuse me. So especially if you're in a mall or shopping somewhere, you often have to engage with or talk with the person who's cashing you out, a sales clerk. Or you may need to get by some people and you may need to say excuse me. You do not need to touch them, and they do not need to touch you. If they touch you, make sure you say stop or no. Remember, no one can touch you unless you want them to touch you. Oh, so we're going to play a little game. I'm going to show you a picture, and you're going to tell me who they are. So what category in the relationship circle do they belong in? So are they a friend? Are they an acquaintance? Are they a community helper? If we need to go back to the community circle, or the relationship circle, if you need to see the picture again, we can easily do that. Just raise your hand and let me know. Okay, so who am I? So we have a nice picture here of a lady and a man shaking hands. So where do you think they belong? Acquaintance, perfect. All right, so what about these little group of guys? Where do you think that they belong? Friends, perfect. All right, so this one might be a little bit tricky. So keep in mind that we don't know her. We don't recognize her. So where do you think that she would belong? Stranger, perfect. All right, so now we have Smiley Doctor over here. So where do we think he belongs? Community helper. Perfect. So the most important thing to remember is no one can touch you unless you want to be touched. Alright, and another very important aspect to remember is to speak out if you feel uncomfortable or unsafe. It's very important. So before we start talking about good touch and bad touch, it's important that we know that we are the boss of our own body. And that the best way to take ownership of our body is to actually know our body. So we're going to go over a little bit about in areas of our body. So we're going to talk about these sexual parts of the body. Oh, thigh is already ready to go. So we see him there. Ears. We all know where ears are. Our mouth. For a male, he has the chest. For a female, she has breasts. For a male, he has a penis. And for women, we have a vagina. And we all have a bum. Alright? Perfect. So defining sexual parts of the body. So knowing the correct terms for your body parts will help you to better describe a situation. This will come in handy when we talk about good touch and bad touch. So we're going to talk a little bit about good touch. They're considered safe touches. Good touches are touches that make us feel safe and cared for. They make us feel good. Good touches make us feel comfortable. Good touches need to follow the guidelines of the relationship circles. It's really important that we remember what's appropriate for each part of the circle. So what are some examples of good touches? So I'm going to get you guys to talk amongst yourselves. I want you to come up with some examples of good touches. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do that. All right, so now we're coming back. So we're going to talk a little bit about some good touches. A hug from mom, perfect. A kiss from dad, great. A shoulder-to-shoulder hug from a friend. A handshake from an acquaintance. A high five from a community helper. That was excellent. You guys are totally getting this. This is awesome. All right. So good touches. So although good touches may make us feel good, you still have the right to say no or stop if you're not feeling it. Sometimes we are not ready or do not want good touches, and that's okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about bad touches. So they're considered unsafe touches. So bad touches are touches that make us feel sad and uncomfortable. They may cause us bodily harm. So they may actually hurt us. So a bad touch can come from someone we trust. So we need to be aware. So we really need to remember that relationship circle and what's appropriate for each one. So what are some examples of bad touches? So once again, I'm going to get you guys to get into little groups and just talk amongst yourself and come up with some bad touches that we can talk about. All right, so we're coming back now. So someone hitting or kicking or punching you, perfect. Someone touches you underneath your clothes, ooh, that's not good. Someone touches one of your sexual body parts, ooh, that's even worse. Someone touches you and tells you to keep it a secret. Oof. Someone touches you and threatens to hurt you if you tell. Very good, guys. You're definitely getting this. All right. So you don't have to keep a secret when someone gives you a bad touch, even if they ask you to do so. Don't feel like you are bad because you received a bad touch. The person in the wrong is the person who gave you the bad touch. It's very important that you remember that your body belongs only to you and you decide who gets to touch you. Okay, so we're going to play a little game where a group of words are going to pop up on the screen and we're going to decide whether it goes to the good touch column or the bad touch column. All right, so a kiss from mom. Where do we think this belongs? Great, a good touch. Perfect. A hug from grandma. Good touch. Perfect. A kiss from a friend. Bad touch. Good job. This one might be a little bit tricky, so make sure you think a little bit about this one. So doctor taking your heart rate under your clothes. Perfect. It's a good touch. Remember, community helpers may need to touch you, but they need permission first. Acquaintance touches your bum. Bad touch. Excellent. Good job. So stranger touches your breasts. Bad touch. Excellent. A high five from a friend. A good touch. Good job. A friend touches your thigh. So remember, did we talk about a thigh when we were talking about defining sexual parts of the body? Make sure you think about this one. A bad touch. Perfect. Good job, guys. Okay, so maybe not last one. Hug from your brother. A good touch. Perfect. This is the last one. A stranger touches your penis. A bad touch. Great job, guys. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some safety rules we need to follow. Yes. It is not okay for anyone to touch you in a bad way. It's not okay for you to touch anyone in a bad way either. Caregivers may need to touch your sexual body parts to clean or look for infection if you're sick or you're ill. If you feel uncomfortable, you must say stop or no. It is not okay for someone to show you their sexual body parts, and it's not okay for you to show your sexual body parts to someone. It is not okay if someone just asks you to take your clothes off. It is not okay for someone to ask you to touch their sexual body parts, and it's not okay for you to ask someone to touch your sexual body parts. So the number one safety rule that I want you to leave with is that you are the boss of your own body. You decide who has permission to touch you. You must speak out when you feel unsafe or uncomfortable. That's very important. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what we do when a bad touch happens. So what do we do next? So now we're going to go step by step on what you do when someone touches you in the wrong way. So you say no. Tell the person that you're uncomfortable and you don't want to be touched in that way. Make sure you're firm about it. Like, no, I really don't want you to touch me that way. If they ask you to keep it a secret, ask yourself, does this secret bother me? Did I feel safe? Next thing you would do is remove yourself from the situation. So get away fast. Next, you would go and tell someone you trust about what happened, or you would call for help. A trusted person can be a parent, a caregiver, a relative, a doctor, etc. If it's an emergency, for sure, call 911. Never stay alone with that person again. You do not want this to happen again. Know that you did absolutely nothing wrong. Believe in yourself and know that you did not deserve a bad touch in any way. So remember, your body is the most important thing you own. You need to protect it. You need to love it and honor it. You need to be your own body boss.